My name is Lauren Freeman, and I'm the Writing for Focus Program Manager. I'm so thrilled that you all are here. Just a little overview for today. There's my email address, but I'll show it to you at the end. Overview of today for our goals. I will provide a welcome and an intro to Outride, followed by some information on Writing for Focus as a program. We'll go through a couple slides of that, and then we will move on to the application. At the end of that, we will then leave room for questions and answers. So feel free to either hold them to the end of the presentation, or you can ask them while we're on a slide. So I hope that we can answer any of your questions. And if you have anything that's on top of your mind, feel free to let us know how we can help you. So a little bit about Outride. Outride is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the lives of youth through cycling. Through our research, school-based cycling programs, and matching community grants, Outride harnesses the benefits of cycling for the cognitive, socio-emotional, and physical well-being of youth, while also helping to cultivate inclusive cycling communities. At Outride, we believe that cycling has a positive impact on cognitive, emotional, and physical well-being, that bikes have the power to bring people together and strengthen communities. That community power comes from connection, opportunity, and access, and that local communities are best positioned to advance local change. And to realize our goals, we are committed to diversifying the next generation of cyclists, supporting and cultivating inclusive and thriving cycling communities, sharing actionable research to advance community well-being, and amplifying the stories of our partners to continue to grow public support of equitable and inclusive cycling programs. Okay, so here are our three programs, a little bit about what we do internally. Outride was founded on the belief that cycling and well-being are connected. This belief has fueled our research and programs for the last 7 years. Research, as Esther said, she's a program manager for research, remains at the heart of our work. Through school and institutional partnerships, we are learning how riding bikes impacts brains and student well-being. Through dollar-for-dollar matching grants, the Outride Fund supports community cycling programs. It's one part peer-to-peer online fundraising platform and one part dollar-for-dollar matching grant. And then my program, the Writing for Focus program, is our middle school PE-based cycling program that promotes cycling as an outlet for students to improve their cognitive, physical, and socio-emotional well-being. Specifically, Writing for Focus develops basic cycling handling skills and traffic safety skills. If awarded a grant, a school will receive a fleet of bikes, helmets, curriculum, teacher training, and ongoing program support from Outride staff, which includes program evaluation and implementation. So since 2014, Outride has partnered with 200 schools and granted over 1 million to more than 100 cycling programs, impacting over 50,000 youth annually. This fall, over 10,000 students participated in the Writing for Focus program. But for our last year, our 2021 cohort, this will be our biggest cohort yet. And we will very soon, we had a couple delays because of COVID, but we will very soon onboard 57 new school partners, and we will train over 120 new Writing for Focus teacher champions this spring and grant over 2,000 bikes, which is very exciting. So through our data collection, we learned that students love the program, that they get really excited to get engaged with physical activity, and that they really end up falling in love with program and riding bikes. 90% of our teachers report seeing improvements to their student health, behavior, and confidence after completing the program. 90% of students surveyed reported being interested in continuing to ride outside of the class. And teachers reported students were motivated to show up to class, which is huge given everything that everyone's going through during our pandemic and student strain and attention in class. We're really seeing a lot of students being excited to come to school and engage in riding bikes. We've also seen that students would, they want to learn more about riding bikes and that they want to continue to ride bikes into their adulthood, which is one of our goals at Outride, is that students become lifelong cyclists and have the tools and confidence to ride bikes for the rest of their lives. So in terms of looking for partners, We do want to make sure that schools are set up for success. We want to maximize the number of youth who are able to benefit from cycling. So we want to make sure that programs, so schools or organizations that are applying do have a few criteria in order to be successful. Number one, we do need for schools to have a core team. We call our champions, our loving champions. These are the people who are going to implement the program at the school. Typically, they are the PE teacher. They don't have to be. These champions are the ones who are running the program, collecting data, ensuring bike maintenance, ensuring that the bikes are stored correctly. These people need to be trained in riding for focus, and they need to be someone who's relatively sustainable at the school for long-term employment. In the event that they leave, we do ask that you have another person who can step up and implement the program, because we understand that at school sites, organizations, sometimes there's a lot of turnover, and we want to make sure that you have staff who are sustainable and able to implement the program over time. So we do need at least 2 folks from the campus or organization to be trained in riding for focus. And we do need support from your principals. I know we have a lot of principals on here, administrators, anybody who will be able to help with funding and finances. We have estimated that schools budget about $50 per bike per year for the annual maintenance. You may or may not use all $50, but we do understand that bikes need to be thought in advance in terms of funding, and that your school principal can budget that into your program. We also need PE class time. So for us, we have found that research shows that 3 days a week of 20-minute elevated heart rate is optimal. If your PE schedule does not have this kind of setup, it's fine, but we will need to be able to talk to you about how you're going to implement the program. We do recommend 6-3-20, which means riding for focus to be implemented for at least 6 weeks at a time, 3 days a week. And like I said, 20 minutes of elevated heart rate. This is not 20 minutes of class time in total. Ideally, we're looking for 45-minute class time with an elevated heart rate, though, of 20 minutes. So that's 20 minutes of cycling. I've already talked about champions. Let's see. So safe riding options. We understand that not all schools have bike paths or mountain bike trails or any kind of infrastructure in their area to allow safe riding. So we have designed riding for focus to be implemented in a parking lot, empty parking lot, a tennis court, a basketball court, a gym. We want to make sure that schools across the nation have access to this curriculum. So it has been designed for a small space. Like I said, a basketball court, tennis court. If you have more space, like a field, that's really great. If you have trails, that's really great. But we do need to make sure that you do have at least a gym or a tennis court inside or outside in order to implement riding for focus. As I mentioned, riding for focus focuses on basic cycling skills and traffic safety skills. So we have designed circuit courses that the PE teacher will set up for each lesson, and that will help guide students to practice their skills in a contained area. After that, we do need to ensure that schools have a storage area that's adequate and safe. Unfortunately, we're not able to reimburse or replace stolen equipment. So it's up to the school to have something that's stable and reliable when applying for our grant. All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna take a little pause. That's a little summary of Outride and riding for focus. We will move into the application itself, but I do want to take a second to see if anybody has any questions in the chat or anything that perhaps I might have missed or talked too fast over.
Have you had any experience with nonprofits taking the lead in hosting this program for schools, or are most of your recipients going to be the schools directly?
That's a great question. A little bit of both. Primarily, middle schools are the direct recipient, because as I'll move forward in my presentation, we do have a school program agreement. This school program agreement asks that requires that the school becomes liable for the students riding bikes. So in the event that an organization applies for a grant, which they can, and we do work with organizations, they sign the school program agreement, which will have them become liable for student safety. So primarily it's the schools, but we're really trying to, make cycling accessible to youth. And we have seen a lot of nonprofits during the school and after school who want to, like you said, apply for a grant and then, get more youth riding. So we're definitely looking at implementing that and expanding that model. Did I answer your question?
Yes, like our agency has an agreement with our local school system. So they
Yeah.
rather than doing their own programs, they utilize us to deliver the programs,
Mhm.
but we're not specific to one school. And it just
Right.
looks like the program is something that, produces positive results through
Mhm.
longevity.
Mhm.
So we were just trying to decide if this would be something that we could, either deliver or if we should just empower the schools and support them
Right.
in their efforts.
Yeah, let's talk about that some more, perhaps at the end. It also depends on how you want to mobilize the bikes, how many students you're serving, what's the proximity. So we can
Mhm.
definitely talk more. I would love to talk more to you about that afterwards.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, so on to the application. Anybody else have something on their mind? All right, cool. So I think most of you have already seen on our website that the application link was right above our webinar dates. So I'm not too worried about that. Go ahead and click the website and click apply. This first step is very fundamental. You will associate your name, your personal work email to the account, and then you will have to verify it in your email. I do recommend using a work email or at least an email that you don't forget which one. I know we all have 10 different emails now, but you just remember because that will be the originator of the application. And so in case you move on to different jobs or whatever, and someone else is using the application, that you know which one it is. Enough said about that. Okay. And also you can add collaborators to this application, which is really great, especially if you're a grant writer or community liaison and you're working with schools. You can have the schools jump onto the application with you and help complete the data. So moving on. Step number 1. So are you eligible? Is this program for youth ages 10 to 14? And do you share our commitment to inclusivity? Go ahead and tell us more about that here. This would be a time to ensure that your school and or organization are eligible for a program and that you're more in agreement with our mission and dedicated to inclusivity. After that, we ask you to please explain how your school or organization is aligned with our mission and explain how you're wanting to make more equitable, inclusive, you're wanting to make cycling more inclusive, equitable, and diverse. So a little bit of fill in the blanks here for mission alignment. Great. So after that, we do ask you for your school or organization, your name and address, your social media websites, what kind of school are you, what's your, more details about that. And then additionally, I've mentioned our champions. Once again, this is the person who is implementing the program at your school or organization. Oftentimes it's the PE teacher. Maybe it's not, maybe it's somebody else. So we just call them champions. We lovingly call them champions because they are the champions of our program. They motivate students, they empower students, they create community. They are the champions in our eyes. So definitely we need to know who they are. We ask for 2. So like I mentioned, in case anything were to happen, you have a plan A and a plan B. This is very important. We want to make sure that your students fall in love with cycling just as much as I have. And with that, we need stable and consistent teachers at your schools. So we do ask for 2. We ask about their cycling experience. We ask about their teaching experience. We just want to know more about them and know where they are. We have a lot of champions across the nation who are professional athletes, and we have others who are getting their cruisers out of their garage for the first time during COVID. We love all of our champions, and we welcome anybody who is enthusiastic about implementing a cycling program at your school to become a champion, but also have backup. Okay, enough said about that. I'm going to keep going. There we go. So student demographics, we want to now learn more about your students. Our goal is to increase access to cycling and prioritize grants to schools who are serving marginalized, lower socioeconomic status schools and higher needs students. Therefore, we are asking for demographic information. If you have a student report card or a student profile, it's a great way to just copy and paste that information into our application. However, we know that numbers and data don't always tell a full story. So please take advantage of writing down if there's anything else that we missed, if there's anything else about your students' lived experience that we haven't asked about. We understand that you all are working tirelessly for your students across the nation, and we just want to know more about what your life is like and what brings you to Outride and Writing for Focus. So this would be a great time to tell us more at this spot. All right, so moving on. Here we talk about our PE class or cycling class schedule. This is the cadence of implementation. So as Esther said, she's our research manager. We're trying to figure out ahead of time, how often are you implementing Writing for Focus? So if you're at a school, we're asking for your PE class. If you're at an organization, we're asking you how often. We want to understand, are you a quarterly, you implementing Writing for Focus quarterly, it's semester, is it once a year, is it every day, is it 3 times a week, is it once a week? How much time do you have? What grades the students are going to access the program? So we collect all this data and we want to know, how many students are going to have access to this program. And so we ask that now in this page right here. An example is that we have a really awesome champion, and he, for example, implements 5 classes a day, 5 days a week. That's really incredible. It's a lot of Writing for Focus. Other schools may have block schedules or weather. So we just want to get an idea of how you're implementing Writing for Focus. All right, so this is a little bit of a long slide. I'm going to take a little breath here. This slide talks about our school program agreement, whether you're an organization or a school. This is a requirement. This is our only legal document that we provide our schools, and assumes liability for the students on behalf of the school or the organization, like we talked about earlier. So you might be getting a sense that this is a big commitment, and it is. We really are invested in creating a partnership with you. We want this to be relational and not transactional. So this commitment is 3 years. Upon receiving the grant for 3 years, you are in partnership and contract with us, and we are committed to supporting you and your students. So that what that means is that when you sign the agreement, you are committing to collecting data, which includes pre and post survey links. So when I was asking, how often are you implementing the program, and how many times a year or a semester, the PE teacher will distribute pre and post survey links before and after the program. They're de-identified, they're anonymous, so that we can capture how did cycling affect students' socio-emotional and mental health, right? And so this is the opportunity to collect that data so that Esther at the end of the year will create a wonderful impact report, which you can see on the right-hand side over there, telling you what your students said. And these responses are incredible, and they are a great tool to advocate for more funds, advocate for safer streets. This is an incredible tool that we offer our schools, given that PE teachers or whoever's implementing the program is able to collect that data on a timely basis. So moving on a little bit from that, we did include the school program agreement on the application. I think if you have already started the application, you probably saw it already. We're happy to talk more to you about the school program agreement if you need to speak about that. We also find that perhaps a couple of school districts may want to see that ahead of time. So please inquire within about your district guidelines regarding data collection. Like I said, these survey links are de-identified and anonymous, and Esther and I can talk more to you about that. I'm sure I got everything on that. Okay. All right, moving forward. So our bike ecosystem. After we go through our school program agreement and talk a little bit about program evaluation, we do ask you about your bike ecosystem. And maybe you're asking, what is a bike ecosystem? A bike ecosystem is not only staff on your campus, staff at your organization, your principal, students, parents, colleagues, but it's also the organizations that are going to help your program thrive. This can include a local bike shop, a local nonprofit, a local bike co-op. It could include a cycling club. It could include volunteers or any kind of sustainable climate organization that you may have locally. So we really encourage you to think outside the box and think about how you can get support with your program. From our experience, it has shown that the most successful programs are the ones that have community support to sustain the program. And this could be, like I said, anything that's available to you in terms of building that relationship. We heavily rely upon our champions to go out there and kind of feel around who may be interested in supporting the program and who may be available to, go on rides, write a press release, do some social media. We found some really incredible organizations that support Writing for Focus programs in very unique ways, and it all depends on your community environment. So our last little application questions here, we ask you, who's going to build your bikes? When the bikes come to your school organization, they come in pieces and enormous cardboard boxes. It is up to the school and the school principal or the organization to build the bikes. They do not come pre-built. And sometimes, you can ask your local bike shop to give you a discounted rate to build the bikes. Sometimes not so much. Sometimes the bike shops will do it for free. We do ask that the bikes are built by a certified bike mechanic. That is a requirement. It doesn't have to be a specialized bike mechanic, but it can be any kind of certified bike mechanic. We also are asking that schools and organizations, like I said, assume the costs for any kind of annual tune-up or adjustment or replacement of parts. I know from my experiences, middle school students sometimes are a little bit rougher on the bikes than we often expect. And so Outride, unfortunately, will not be able to cover any costs for tune-ups or annual maintenance. Given that you are, providing bikes with loving annual tune-ups, the bikes will last a really long time, and we expect the bikes to last for at least 10 years. So in thinking about your school and thinking about the students who are going to have this wonderful opportunity to access a cycling program on campus, we really encourage you all to think forward and invest financially in keeping these bikes tuned up so that they can last at least 10 years. This slide also talks a little bit more about your bike storage. You can tell us what your plans are, how you're planning on keeping the bike safe, and then a little bit about your riding routes. What is your plan for implementation? And I think we have probably covered that last part here. Biking partners is where you list who you will be working with, if possible. All right, great. So this is a final page, just a little more information from you all. We'd like to know how did you hear about Outride? If you were to receive a grant, how many bikes would you ideally request? Our bikes are fantastic, specialized rock hoppers. If you go online, you can kind of check out the specs a little bit. They are mountain bikes. They are hardtails, which means that there is a front suspension. There's not a rear suspension. They're called one by. So what that means is that there's no front derailleur. There's only a rear derailleur. There's one chain ring in the front, which is really great way to teach youth and adults how to cycle. What happens is that it decreases the number of derailleurs on the bike so that students are essentially focusing on the rear derailleur. We do offer the bikes in multiple sizes. So we have extra, extra small all the way to large. If you go online, you can also see a little bit about the scale in terms of height. So you can think about how many students do you have, how tall are they, what sizes you might like. So we ask that information at this page. If you feel like that's something you can fill out, we'd love to know. And then at the end of the application, we do ask you to understand that if selected, you will be asked for a 30-minute interview with myself. We will talk more in depth about your program, budget, staff, the champions, implementation, get to know you a little bit more and see if it's going to be a good fit. Once you're done with this application, please ensure that you press the word submit on the application. I know it's a little bit it's intuitive, but also we just want to make sure that your application is submitted correctly. So please make sure you press submit on there. All right, and that is the end of our application. I will take a pause in a second and answer some questions. This picture right here makes me really excited. These are all the schools that were awarded bike programs last year, our 2021 cohort. Like I mentioned earlier, we had some delays due to COVID. I really hope that if you're here on the webinar, you're envisioning your name and your school on this slide here. We do have an annual social media announcement. So these are all the schools that were awarded last year. Let me finish these last two slides and I'll take some questions. What to expect. So I'm sure most of you already know that the application closes on the 2nd. After that, if selected, your school will be asked for a 30-minute interview, really quick turnaround on that. And then we will follow up with award notifications end of May, beginning of June. Sorry for that typo again, I didn't fix it last time. We will hopefully, our plan is to announce before everyone goes on summer break. So that would be our goal. In the meantime, we need folks to understand that they need to get the school program agreement signed and start talking about the bike delivery and who's going to build their bike shops. And then we also need to prepare for training at the end of this process, because the champions will be asked to attend an all-day teacher training, which will be virtual. And I'll discuss more about that with folks during our interview process. If you have any questions, please feel free to stay in touch with me, give me a call, give me an email. We do have one more webinar, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We highly recommend. That's a great place to get information, but also share with your community partners and staff and colleagues so they can understand more about our program and raise stoke in your community. So I really want to thank you all for coming. We really can't do this without you, and appreciate your time. And I'm going to stop talking so we can get some questions going. Molly's got a question. How many grants? That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So last year, 2021, we were only able to grant half of the applicants that we received. So this year we're expecting double the amount of applications. So we had 57 that were awarded for 2021, and we had double that in terms of applications. This year, I'm assuming it's going to be another really wonderful competitive round of applications. And so we really give a lot of attention to reading and understanding and getting involved in, not getting involved, but being invested in learning who you are and how Writing for Focus will be a good fit for your community. Well, the dollar amount depends on the number of bikes awarded. So I can give you an example. A 20 fleet bike would probably, the grant value is probably around $20,000, $20,000 to $25,000. This also includes shipping. It includes teacher training. It includes the curriculum, the Writing Focus curriculum. It includes ongoing support and data collection. What it doesn't include, and I think I've hopefully made it clear, it doesn't include the bike build. It doesn't include bike maintenance, parts. It doesn't include storage and transportation to and from getting your bikes. So I hope that's been clear. Awesome. Can high schools apply? Can high schools? Yes. So we are going to pilot high schools in the future. Our curriculum is middle school based. So cognitively, developmentally, we have targeted this for middle schools. But Outride really wants to start working with high schools. We will accept applications, but that will be determined upon, review and other factors. So we do encourage high schools to apply, but we are a middle school based cycling program. Kay, do you have a question?
No, just saying bye, thank you.
Okay, bye, thank you so much. Yeah, if you all have no questions, I just want to thank you for joining, and I'll be online if anybody wants to talk one-on-one a little bit more. I can stop recording. Maybe I'll stop recording.
If we want a recording of this to send to our PE teacher, do we need to put our email address in the chat? Or
no, we're going to post it online, so you can just forward them the